We have these two questions here, and we're going to change from degrees to radians. So we've identified that these are already in a specific unit of measurement. If recall that there's this one formula we can use to do this multiplication, okay? We're actually going to multiply each of these values, so we'll call this value 1 and this value 2. Value 1 we're going to multiply by pi over 180. So we're actually going to use that for both of them. So we'll multiply both of them by pi over 180. The one on the left, you'll get to notice that is actually going to be very simple to actually go through the process. Remember, when multiplying fractions, we take the numerator times the numerator, so that's the top, and then the denominator by the denominator, so bottom by the bottom. But instead of actually just carrying that out and then reducing, we can actually do a little bit of reducing before we actually multiply. For instance, if 180 is on the top and 180 is on the bottom, I know that I can essentially cancel these two out because we're going to have 180 on the top of the fraction and 180 on the bottom of the fraction. So when you divide 180 by 180, you actually end up with just the value of 1. So if I move this down, this now says 1 divided by 1 times pi over 1. So this actually becomes very simple. Pi over 1, which is also the equivalent of just pi. So that makes sense to us too. If we think about going around our Cartesian plane, if we go 180 degrees, we also know that that's actually the rotation of just pi. And to get to 360, it's actually 2 pi. So that makes a lot of sense with what we're doing. The second one here, 330. This one's a little trickier. The numbers don't nicely divide like we were before, but we can definitely do a bit of the division before they start the multiplication. So let's reduce this value. Taking a look at this, we can definitely divide 30 into both of these. If I divide 30 into this top numerator here in red, I will get 11, okay? And if I divide 30 into 180, I'm going to end up with 5, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, no, 6. Yes, 6. Okay, those look like that they're reduced as far as they can go. So now we would carry out that multiplication of the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom. And we get 11 pi divided by 6, and that actually doesn't reduce any farther, okay? Now, with that being said, it's important we remember this thing here, pi over 180, because we're going to go to the next page, and we're going to do radians to the degrees. And in this case, we're going to multiply by 180 over pi. So remember, that's actually the inverse of what we multiplied by here. So when we go here, when we're switching, we invert the values we're going to multiply by. So we multiply both of these by 180 over pi. We're going to use the exact same concept where we can do reducing of like the value of pi, because pi is on both the top and the bottom. We know that actually just cancels out to the value of 1. And 6 actually goes very nicely into 180. 6 goes in 30 times. So this becomes a simple question of 1 over 1 multiplied by 30 over 1. And we quickly see that this is actually just 30 degrees. In the second one, same concept. Our pi, we can definitely get rid of. And our 5 actually goes into 180 also. So I can reduce that down to 1. And 5 goes into 183, 6. Is that right? 36 times? 30. Yes, I think that's right. So now we get, when we write this fraction out again, 2 over 1 times 36 over 1. So this ends up being 72 degrees when we do the converting. So the main part here is to remember when going from radian to degrees, we multiply by 180 over pi. And when going from degrees to radians, we multiply by pi over 180.